Camilla's Corner. And true to the name of my podcast, I myself am just in the corner of my room. I'm recording this at night in my pajamas on my bed in the corner of my room because I have been procrastinating recording this just because life has been pretty hectic lately. But we are all good and we're here and we're still recording this, which is great. I just need to get more into a routine with recording. But yeah, I just wanted to let you know how my week has been, because I've started school again, which has been fun. It's been really intense, but I've had a lot of fun, and it's really nice to go back to school with all of my friends and everyone in my course, because everyone's really nice, and there's just a really great energy that everyone has. But yeah, very intense. We've been doing lots of dancing, which I'm not really a dancer first, but we are learning to be a dancer first because we are doing a lot of dancing. Anyway, I've been pretty chill this week. I've just been mostly at school, doing all of the things there. And that's kind of what's been happening there. But this weekend is my birthday, so I'm very excited. I'm turning 19. We will have a little birthday celebration next week. And yeah, I don't even know what I'm saying. I'm really tired. But hopefully that won't hinder the episode, because we're talking about a really cool and exciting thing, which, if you listened to last week's episode, you would know. We're talking about musical theatre. Yay! More specifically, my journey with musical theatre, because I really like it a lot, and people want to know why. And those people are you. And if you don't follow my podcast Instagram, at Camilla's Corner, follow it so you can contribute. There's a lot to cover here, so let's just get right into it. So, to those who have been living under a rock and don't know what musical theatre is, it is basically a theatrical performance in which the story is told through acting, singing, and dancing. Now, that is a very broad definition, but at its core, that is what musical theatre is. Now, there are hundreds and hundreds of musicals of all different types, and it just so happens that it is one of my favorite things in the entire world. So, let's start at the very beginning, a very good place to start, as Maria von Trapp in The Sound of Music would say, and start with my introduction to musical theatre and how I got introduced to the world of musical theatre. Now, my first experience with musicals was actually through movies like Mary Poppins, The Sound of Music, Chitty Chitty Bang Bang, all the Disney movies. So I was very much exposed to musical theatre from a very young age. I was watching these movies when I was 7, 8 years old, as well as my already found love for singing. My story with singing is that I've literally been singing since before I could talk, which is very cute. But I've been singing properly since I was about 5 years old, when I joined a choir. That's kind of where my singing background came from, and when I found musicals through movies when I was little, I was obsessed. I think I watched Mary Poppins, I have no idea how many times. Many times. Same with Sound of Music. I watched that movie 30 times. I loved it. I watched Mamma Mia at a really young age, and I remember going home from school when I was like in year 2 every single day and watching Mamma Mia in full. So to say that I loved musical theatre as a little tiny child is very much an understatement because I was fully obsessed. The first live musical I saw in a theatre was Mary Poppins. I saw that show back in 2011 with my family for my sister's birthday. I think she turned 5 years old, so I was probably 7. And my whole family went out to the Capitol Theatre in Sydney and we saw Mary Poppins live on stage. And that was my first ever theatrical experience. And I feel like what drew me so much to musicals back then was seeing kids in musicals, seeing kids singing and performing. And as a wannabe performer at like 7 years old, to see someone doing that on stage was really a turning point for me. I really loved movies like Sound of Music and Mary Poppins that had like the young kids in it that I could relate to, and I can see myself as those kids on screen or stage. However, I didn't really consider back then, of course, performing as a real, especially in musical theatre, I didn't really think of performing as a big deal. I wanted to be a like pop star like Katy Perry because Katy Perry was so cool and I loved singing and I was like, I am a singer. And I kind of forgot about musical theatre for a while until a little musical named Hamilton comes out. Now, Hamilton, of course, took the world by storm. It was a project that no one had ever seen in musical theatre before, and I found it from these like YouTube videos, and in these videos, I heard the music and I was like, oh, this is really good. I should probably listen to this musical. And for me, in 2016, I was the first one in my knowledge of people. I was in year 6, so there wasn't really many people who knew what musical theatre was. But I was the first one who knew what Hamilton was, which I think is pretty cool. And so I shared it with my sister, and she became obsessed. And I just loved it so much, and I had a full-on obsession with musical theatre, particularly Hamilton. I would have given my like right leg to go see Hamilton. And then through Hamilton, I just started to discover more musicals. I discovered Heathers, Dear Evan Hansen, Mean Girls, all of these musicals that I started to claim as my personality. I became the musical theatre girl, which was pretty crazy because I was the only person I knew other than my sister who knew what musicals even were. When I went to high school, a lot of my friends didn't have any idea what musicals were. They didn't understand how listening to a musical soundtrack was good. And I was like, you do not understand. This is a piece of art in an album. It is, the storytelling that can be conveyed is so powerful, even just listening to an album. And I just fell in love with that. And the people around me fully didn't understand it. And it wasn't until I like dragged them into cinemas to watch The Greatest Showman or like forced them to listen to Hamilton in their headphones that they kind of started getting it and started really to appreciate the art that is musical theatre, but that took so long. And even still, a lot of my friends who aren't as creatively involved don't understand the fixation of musical theatre that I had, which luckily I never really took as discouragement towards me loving it. Everyone was always very supportive of me having something that I was so passionate about and was so certain that I was going to pursue, which was really nice when you think about it. Because to be, 13, 14, and know what you want to do and have people around you that don't want to take that away from you, that's really nice. It's basic human decency, but if people don't understand something, it can be very easy for them to say, no, you shouldn't follow that. What is that? I don't understand. Just lots of no's, which luckily I didn't really face. As the years went on, I kept discovering new shows, and I kind of refined my taste. Not really. I started discovering shows like Hadestown and Les Mis, shows with deeper stories that were a lot deeper and richer than the shows that I had really listened to. And that was so interesting because I started falling in love with the songs and the songwriting and different meanings of different songs. And I found this new style of musical, which is very emotional rather than peppy and energy driven, which was really cool. Then around year 9 is when I started performing in musicals, like live musicals. I auditioned for a small community theatre show. I got into the ensemble, which was cute. And that was my first time really performing in a musical with the whole shebang, the whole rehearsal process, Sitzprobe, Tech Week, all of that. And that was really exciting for me because it was a taste of what I really wanted to do. And later on, I performed in different shows like Aladdin and Seussical and other little things along the way, which was really nice. In year 10, my focus kind of went more towards pursuing musical theatre after school. Luckily, I knew what I wanted to do. I kind of touched on this last episode, so I'm not really going to go too deep into it. But I really started researching different drama schools to go to and different schools that offered musical theatre post high school, which was very important to me because I knew that I wanted to go to uni for musical theatre, so it's just a no-brainer to apply and look into it in year 10. And all during this, I was still performing in musicals. I was in choir performing. I was in drama and music at school. So it was all very at the forefront of my external world. I was very much focused on musical theatre as my number one thing to do. Then year 12 comes around, and this is my year to focus on preparing for my auditions for schools. So I did singing lessons, I focused a lot of my time and energy into drama at school, just learning as much as I could. I got into the dance group at choir, so I was getting that choreo experience, which was really great. And I was basically preparing to audition for schools end of the year. And if you don't know, when you're applying to musical theatre schools, you usually apply with a couple songs, a few monologues maybe, and sometimes a dance. So I spent like the whole year working on these things and focusing on these, as well as doing my HSC, which is the final year of high school, which was a pretty hectic time. Again, I kind of touched on this last episode, so if you didn't listen to that, make sure you listen, because I go into the whole like uni process for me. However, before uni, like the month of January 2023 was probably one of the biggest for me in terms of musical theatre. The year before, I was selected to join a group of Australian performers, young Australian performers, called the Aussie All Stars. We went up to New York City to rehearse, like, on Broadway, watch Broadway shows, be in New York, and then we went to Atlanta to perform at the Junior Theatre Festival. And being in New York City, a place where it's basically the home, of course, of musical theatre, of Broadway, to be in that space, to be inside Broadway theatres, was revolutionary. That trip changed my brain chemistry. It was such an impactful experience. And it really made going to New York, living there, going to Broadway, it just made it so much more real. And I'm so grateful I got to go. I met the most amazing people who are probably listening right now, so hi! And I just loved it so much. And I'm definitely going back. And I did that all before I started uni. So, flash forward to now, where I'm studying musical theatre full-time at uni, and it is a lot of fun, it is very intense, but I'm enjoying it a lot. And hopefully I can take these skills that I'm learning at school to continue growing and pursuing musical theatre, because that is my number one goal, my number one dream to do. I would love to perform in the commercial musicals that come to Australia, and we'll just throw in the West End and Broadway in there as well. We will manifest. Because in the words of Mary Poppins, anything can happen if you let it. Oh my god, guys, I'm incorporating musical quotes. Someone stop me. So that's kind of my, journey with musical theatre. But I quickly wanted to, play a little game with, musical theatre prompts. Where I'm just going to read, a question, surrounding musical theatre and answer it, kind of. Yeah. Okay, I should have, theme music. So I'm going to go... do-do-do-do-do-do-do. Yeah. Okay, so first question. What was the first musical you ever saw? And that would be Mary Poppins, as you all should know, as I said it in this episode. Okay. Second question. What was your favourite musical growing up? Now, I was shown The Wizard of Oz, the film, when I was probably in year 3, and I don't think I've ever been more obsessed with a film in my life. I'm not going to elaborate too much, but there were plans to have a Wizard of Oz birthday party, and it was going to be great, but it had to be cancelled, and I had my birthday at Luna Park instead. Question 3. Were you ever in a musical? Yes, so the musicals that I have been in are Honk, Seussical Jr., Aladdin Jr. Is that it? Definitely not. That's all I can think of right now. Question number 4. What was the first musical you saw on Broadway? And like I said, I went up to New York this January, and the first show that I saw was Beetlejuice on Broadway, and I saw it 2 days before it closed, with Alex Brightman, who plays Beetlejuice, coming back after he had a concussion. It was crazy. And that was the first performance that he came back after his concussion, and it was a magical experience. Question 5. If you could play any character in a musical, who would you be? Dream role is probably actually more of a dream show. I want to be in Into the Woods as every single character in that show. I want to age through the show and play every single character. More the female characters, but you never know. I could play a good baker. That would be fun. Question 6, I think. What is your favorite film adaptation of a musical? The first one that comes to mind is the new Matilda movie. That one so beautifully encapsulates the musical in such a gorgeous way, and I love Matilda, and to see it on screen was amazing. All the new songs were great. I just loved it. 10 out of 10. Oh, this question's good. Are there any musicals you saw and hated? I'm not going to name names, but there was a show at the Theatre Royal in Sydney that ran from sometime in March towards maybe June. Not my favorite show at all. Okay, last one is, what is your favorite musical of all time? Which is a little too hard, so I'm going to give you my top 5. In no particular order. It's probably Into the Woods, Hadestown, West Side Story, Hamilton, and probably The Prom, but that last one's kind of interchangeable. Those are like top 5 that I can listen to all the time, and I can just appreciate so much. I love those shows. But of course I love every other show that I listen to, except for that one show. We're not going to talk about it. But yeah, that's my crazy musical theatre opinions in life. Those opinions are probably definitely going to change in the next week. So, it's going to be fun to listen back to these and be like, that is the stupidest thing I've ever said. Of course, Hamilton is not your favourite musical, which I don't think will happen, but we never know. A lot can happen. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed listening. If you're listening on Spotify or Apple Music, please feel free to give this podcast a little 5-star rating. And if you're listening on YouTube, give it a thumbs up. I will see you next week. I hope everyone has the most amazing week ever. This week is actually my birthday week, so that is a lot of fun. We will talk about that all next week in a whole new episode. I don't know what it's going to be about, but we'll find out together. I will see you all. Have an amazing time. Goodbye.